All right. Greetings, everyone. Boy, you talk about cold turkey and starting something. This must be cold duck and no, cold turkey and ending things. This must be cold duck and starting. All right. Welcome back to the channel. No fanfare, no music, no graphics, just moi. Okay. And I'm also just checking to make certain, and it looks like I did that I would be. Uh, I'm coming to you on three channels at once. This is Adam Abraham. We're talking about Onescious wealth movement. And we also, I've added a new thing, TGU. What is that? It's the great unlearning. Okay. There's some certain things that we need to unlearn. Now, how do we unlearn something? You do it by overriding stuff that no longer serves you. That's kind of how it works. But before you can override anything that doesn't serve you, you got to see it as it is. You got to see it for the disservice that it is for you, like right now. And so it's really interesting. Yesterday, I introduced the idea, the concept of whole I-ness, WHOLE, I-ness, holiness, holiness, about the wholeness of things, seeing the whole picture. And you don't realize that we have gone for so long seeing only parts of the picture because we've been accustomed, suggested that we stay in our lanes. We choose a perceptual lane and just stay in there and don't worry about what someone else is doing. We have all these little ways of talking about things as, what is it? Jack of all trades, but master of none. And so, oh, gee. So here we got a whole bunch of specialists looking at and we're staying in our lanes and we're doing things in parallel to each other. You're over here, I'm over here, etc. And, we're not looking over, well, we're looking over in suspicion. We're not interacting with each other. And we're actually we're being adversarial while we continue to do our thing. And all along, we're not aware of what effect our actions have on others, and we're not aware on what effect the others have on us. So we are accustomed to either non-responsiveness or over responsiveness. And in both cases, it's inappropriate. We have the commonality of inappropriate response to various stimuli. So all someone's got to do is just do the stimuli, give the hint of that, or hint of this, a pinch of that, and people are going to just sit there, whatever. They're not going to notice it, and others are going to misinterpret it and overreact. Sound familiar? So this is something that's been well oiled into the machine of society that we are familiar with. And it's one reason why some people create a whole bunch of certain things that they like and a few and a little of what they don't like. And on the other hand, some people create a whole bunch of what they don't like and then very little bit about what they like. It's really time to, there's a clue in there. And the point here is in these conversations, these discourses, we're going to explore those clues for one thing, because we're going to see how they apply to each one of us. You know, that's how we change things and we start to realize what actually is happening. We see it for what it is, we see it for the benefit or the detriment that it represents, and then we deal with it. Okay. And then in addition to that, we are also trusting of our own instincts. We are trusting of our own judgment. How many people are sitting around following the instincts and the judgment of someone else who doesn't even know them, doesn't even care about them or their situation in life or anything else? And their main motivation for expressing a concern or some level of empathy, and it's just a level of it, doesn't mean that it's full. Okay, it's enough appearance of empathy so that you what? Follow their advice. Maybe it's for their books they're going to be selling, or etc. Now here we go, and I'm saying this right here is a QR code. And the last time I checked, let me check that QR code myself. I got to. I have several that I'm actually looking at now, but the point basically is this. Okay, now do you see what comes up here? I just put my phone on this, and uh, oh, there it is. It does work. Ooh, ooh, contact. Okay, well, this is interesting. Ah, well, I'll tell you this. It'll work. When I look at it, it's not the one that I had in mind putting on there, but that's what's going on today. Every day is something else, and we'll get to all of that. One thing I can do as I work that out. Gee, I can do this, and I can basically do. Um, Pardon me for doing this right in front of it. Well, maybe we'll just get on to it. I did this, and then I will at some point here make that correct, or something. It'll be on to the next thing. So, but I'll tell you how all this started. If you're not familiar, if you're new to this, this is day 11, and in several days, today's the 17th of December, 2023, and I'm going to be doing this every day at this time until the 22nd. That's this coming Friday. So I got one, two, three, four, 5 more days that I'm going to do this at this time and in this format. Uh, this has been long enough for me. This is my 11th day. So I will be doing this for 16 days. And what is it for in truth? One is to establish a habit for myself, is to get over some levels of reticence that I have had pursuant to talking, giving my point of view about things. It's been, and I'll say this, why my point of view? What's so wrong with my point of view? Because I'm so used to it. I know what it is. And it's not that I don't think it's a value, I know it's a value. However, I'll say this: I don't see a lot of people sharing this. Typically speaking, people come. Now let's back up again. There's a whole bunch of people that share this point of view. Most people, myself included, stuff it down someplace and do their best to keep a lid on it. All right, not so much because they want to, but sometimes for it to simply stay where it is, it could be simply a matter of what if I say all these things and no one responds, or no one responds. Okay, I know these things are helpful. I know they're worth doing. I have quite a bit of history enough in my own life to see where I followed my own hunches. I did my own research. I came up with my own reasons for doing things. And once I knew what to do, I did it because I knew it would be helpful to myself, and it would be helpful to anyone as best I could and as best they could experientially. Ultimately, it's about experience. There are certain things we try to work out in our heads that cannot really happen unless and until we introduce them to the power, the beacon that is our heart, and we let the idea flow through us in full spectrum. People are walking around in quarter spectrum, in minute spectrum of themselves, and they're wanting things to occur and happen in their life. They want to change things, but they don't really have their energetic mojo working. They haven't turned themselves on sufficiently enough, fully enough, to actually engage the universe to do their bidding. And see, this is the other thing. There are certain ideas that we have held about ourselves, for example. And I'll say, I could say ideas we hold dear. They don't not always we hold dear, but if we hold them, that's all that matters. If we're holding on to an idea, if we have not, and if we're simply holding on to that idea in the absence of having a better one that we'd rather be holding on to, and well, we don't even want to hold on to. We want to share it. We want to broadcast it. So, in the absence of having a better idea to broadcast, we're holding on to something that it's not really floating our boat. But something, it becomes a standard by which we do life, and it becomes a subpar standard. It's not the best. How many people have standardized on less than the best of who they are and what they represent? Well, can't expect to get to a place that you want to get with that as your main way of doing things. If you want the Santa Claus of life to come bring you the gifts, you got to be harmonious yourself. You Stress isn't going to do it for you. Blaming someone else isn't going to do it for you. Being angry, all these other types of emotions, not going to happen. So, you talk about practicing what we preach. These are some of the things, and I'll needless to say, some of us aren't preaching anything. So, what are we doing, and what's this whole deal about wealth, and why all this existential stuff? It just turns out I'm going to speak generally, and then I will be specific. The general part is that life is a function of conscious, or should I say, the activity of consciousness. When I say consciousness, you can substitute the word spirit, you can substitute the word soul, you can substitute the word mind, mentality. Well, not totally. I'm being general here, but we're talking about something that is much more ephemeral, much more, which appears to be subjective. Okay, we're not talking about the nuts and bolts of the hard and fast of the physical visible. We're talking about the stuff that you can't see, feel, touch, etc. To which the only one you'll get a whole bunch of reaction subject to people's comparing their own intangibles too. But there's only one person that knows what turns you on in that respect from the subjective area, and that's you. There's only one person that knows what it is that you really want to turn into an objective experience. And again, that's you. And if you are not giving your time and your attention and your energy to that subjective idea that you wish to bring in. And it could be a skill that you want. Maybe you want to learn to play the guitar. Maybe you want to sing. Maybe you want to write the next great this and great that. Maybe you live in an area that is rife with turmoil, rife uh, with uneasiness, with tension. This is what's normal for you, and maybe you want to change that, and you don't either know how or have an idea how, and you don't think you are the one who can. You're convinced that you can't do and take positive or do something substantive that will actually create a, a real change in that experience. And see, so most people don't try because they're convinced that they can't. If you're convinced that you can't, or someone else has convinced you that you can't because maybe got a whole bunch of arms and ammunition and everything else to protect them when when the crap happens, okay? And you don't subscribe to that. And in some regards, you may not even realize that that is one of the best protectors that you have. And most people don't know that either. If they knew better about themselves and about their own nature. And if they took and when they take some ownership, some stewardship over their own nature, they reclaim it and they start using it consciously, uh, not vigilantly, but volitionally. The choice to do so. You've got your choice to select any of these things and to be any of these things and to perpetuate any of these possibilities. But the ones that you decide to embrace and embody as you, that begins, it becomes. See, I'm trying to say two things at one time. It begins and it becomes the standard by which your life will unfold. You are setting the tone for your life, whether you know it or not. And it doesn't matter who your influences are. You need to, in my estimation, become the last word, so to speak, and the first word for that matter, in what your life will be, because it is ours to make that decision for ourselves. Now, so here it is, saying all that, I came prepared to talk about a whole number of things because many people, most people in our society, and this could be in our families, it could be in our cultures and everything else, we have established a certain set of norms. We've established a certain set of desirabilities and methods by which to do things, to function, and to quote unquote, when I say quote unquote, I mean this, succeed, succeed in this society, in this, uh, I love it, this milieu, okay? Because that's what this is. This is just a place where stuff goes on, and we go on with it. We are interacting with people. We are doing this thing, and we're calling it creating a collective, individual, and collective experiences. And the thing about it is that many people are actually anticipating some really, I'm going to say horrific, I'm going to say undesirable, etc., stressful, all of that. Many people, I would just say many, not everyone, but a lot of people are projecting those kinds of experiences. A couple of days ago, I did. I included a fellow named some observations by a guy named Cliff High, and actually Cliff lives out in this particular area, this part of the world. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and he was talking about with his data that he analyzes. He calls it predictive. I think it's linguistics or something like that, or linguistic projections. He analyzes the words that are put out and broadcast in all different methods on this digital media because of its digitality, if that's a word. Uh, Everything can be captured and translated and then analyzed. And so essentially, while no one knows it all, I don't. I have my perspective. You have yours. We all do. But he is collecting this from all over the world, from all the people. Anyone that's putting stuff out there, he's analyzing that data, and from what he's suggesting, his research has shown is that the collective of humanity, the whole, the WHOLE of humanity, between that there are words, there are uses of words, there's vernacular, there's so many different things, but it turns out that they are predictive of events that are likely to occur. And he has, over some years, he said, well, gee, this is indicating this is indicating that. He's learned how to read all this information, and therefore it's become predictive because the actual events turned out. So while one person or a group of people may not have the whole of it, we as humanity do have the whole. And I'm we are the whole, and what we say is predictive. It can be relied upon to unfold in a certain way. Now, that's in general. You get down to the specifics, Each person's contribution to that whole involves and includes a feedback loop experientially back to the person, back to the giver. We are there's a law of the universe. What goes around comes around. That's one what we call the great laws of the universe, etc. But it is cyclical, it is circular, and it comes out in kindred, in kind. Now, what happens basically is that we've been convinced that that doesn't happen. Okay, we think that we can put anything out, oftentimes crap, and then what we tend to think is that it won't happen back to us. You put this thing out, you talk with disrespect to someone, whether you think, and people don't talk disrespectful to others because they don't think they deserve it. They do it because they think they have good reason to. But if you can't stand in front of a person and speak your, not your mind, but your heart to them, and you speak to them the way you want them to speak to you. I mean, you can do that to anyone when you are in the right place of you. It doesn't matter who they are, and it doesn't matter where they are, and you won't have a problem speaking to that person, that individual, and you won't have to either hide behind some mask, and say all this nasty crap, or on the other hand, sit back and worry about their response, even if it's in disagreement. And we, as a society, from a cultural standpoint, we create. Um, Thin skins, so to speak. We don't have this sense. Oftentimes, we hide behind uh, uh, some. There's a term, and it's like I don't want to use mask, but we and false identity. We something we can call them avatars. You can call them. There's many names for something that really hides your true self and presents the self you want people to think of you, so to speak. And so the point of being yourself is a point for virtually everyone, because some people either will say stuff because they think people won't find out who they are, because they don't want to be identified. They do things and then they run. I mean, well, where's the courage there? These we're not expressing, we're not even suggesting that people be their best. And only if you're doing your best, now the universe knows. The universe gives back to you what you're putting out. So it comes back. It will come back. Now, in addition to that, the new experiences that you are seeking of higher quality and everything else, when you create them and you put your best into them in terms of your thoughts and your feelings and your actions and your intentions, it comes. It it comes. It's not like clockwork, but it certainly comes uh, in reality. Okay, there's nothing that can stop it, and yet you can find and hear all kinds of, let us say, suggestions that you got to prepare for the worst. You're hearing this from people that you respect. Hearing this from experts and this, that, and the other. And, of course, they want you to buy this product. They want you to buy this book. They want you to be in the same field with them to create this field of expectancy, but it's of a negative kind. It's of a undesirable kind. And so our point basically here is to transcend that stuff, to transmute it, to change it, at least for ourselves. I can't do this for you or for anyone else, but I am confident that I'm not alone in wanting to do just that. And so, one reason for this series, even though it doesn't seem apparent based on my first 24 minutes of gabbization, gabbization, is that there's a way for us to change things. And one of the things that needs to change, I'll say the word need at some point in time later on in our conversations, and whether they are in this series or ongoing, one of our goals is literally to transcend the meaning of the word need itself. to take need off the table. And again, that's who you are. We are creators. We are able to create. We are able to manifest our creations. And we have created essentially the concept and the perception of insufficiency. In other words, known or otherwise known as lack, chronic and acute insufficiency, chronic and acute lack of sufficient supply of this or of that. And that can be a number of different things. Health, who's sitting around with insufficient health, uh, well-being, wellness, joy, not to mention something called money. And so our behaviors and our attitudes and everything else have and from that our information and our knowledge that we have worked from have basically contributed to us creating that to the extent that we have. Everyone that's listening to this is not in insufficiency of, say, maybe any of those things, or maybe some of these things you got sufficient amount, some of them you don't. But when you look at the data, certainly on the economic side, the vast majority of the people on this planet, not just to mention here in the US of A, but the vast majority of the population is living in a state of chronic to acute insufficiency of funds. And in addition to that, the people who tend to run their the fiduciaries who tend to run their various monetary policies and everything else, they seem intent on trying to maintain that for the people, so to speak. And the point basically is that when you got a situation like that, if there is a situation that way, what do you do? Do you sit back and complain about it, or do you get angry about it? Do you rebel? You do revolution and all those other things? I don't think that really helps, especially when you maintain your anger, when you have to take from, you have to create new harm in order to even to ameliorate. If you're ameliorating harm you think has come to you, you don't do it simply by creating harm to someone else. Uh, that doesn't create the balance. That doesn't fix things whatsoever. If you're going to do anything, you send them light. All right. And at the same time, when you do that, change your direction of your thinking and you look at ways where you can create your uh, idea, your thing on your own. And in addition to that, when you realize that you're not alone, well, you invite others to do the same. And so that is one of the reasons that's what got me to this thing. And because a year or so ago, I came across a way by which multitudes of people, and when I say multitudes, I'm talking not just tens or hundreds of thousands or 10,000s. I'm talking millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions, etc., can do this. Now, will they do it all at once? Hell no. Okay. At present, it's a new concept. And so most people, when they hear it, they, they just, I don't know if they do like deer, with their lights and the headlights and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily go mobile right away. This is a very much an early adopter situation because it involves using a different frame of mind than is normal. It When I talk about it, it will seem like because people will default to their present frame of mind. And so I do this now, basically making it very clear that won't work here because it doesn't apply here. What if I told you that there is a way to make value negotiable asset? I'm not saying money, but you can bring to yourself and cause to bring to yourself a stream of value, of asset value that can be used just like money, and increasingly so. And you do it in a different way so that you do a bit of work to start. and then you start seeing for yourself. You enlist and enroll a few people to do this with you. You invite them to do this with you. But as each of us, every time someone joins and accepts your invitation, you receive some of this value. And then your task essentially is to do two things. You're going to invite three people to do this. You're going to activate yourself. You're going to invite three people to do just what you did. Every time one joins and accepts your invitation, you receive. And then when they start repeating, because the stipulation is that everyone does the same thing. And what's the same thing? Join, fund in this system, invite three people who join, fund, and invite three people. It's a fractal, it is recursive, and it is repetition, and it is highly, highly efficient, and it will create a vortex of inflow. You will put a little bit of outflow, you'll convert some funds into cryptocurrency, you put it into the system, and you do the things that I just mentioned, and you will create a vortex of return, because the activity, once you have invited three, now turn it around. Once three have accepted your invitation to repeat your actions, and then once you have assisted them in inviting three more, each one of them, who accept their invitation to repeat the activity. When that happens, you will have, and that could be me, will have three people plus nine more. We'll have 12 people who are now going to be sending, you could say, assets like a subscription to you every 28 days, to me every 28 days. So when you put in deposit into the system, the person that invited you plus a number of others are going to be receiving, because you're literally agreeing. You start with the intention. It's a commitment to do. What is your word worth? What are your promises worth? You put your deposits in, and the system will return back to you just what you put in if your word is good. If you are true to your own word, then this is what will happen to you, because when you put those funds in, people will accept your invitation, three people, and when they put their funds in, you will receive, and other previous members in your lineage will also receive. It's a positive feedback loop. With every new membership, there is a transfer of income, and it's essentially a promise. Okay, I'll do this every 28 days. Now, here's the key: when you have three people and have invited three people that have accepted your invitation, you will already have earned more than you put in. Therefore, because this is every 28 days, it doesn't mean that you're coming out of your pocket every 28 days. It means basically that your first step is to have sufficient response, that that amount that you put in is always there as just a layer. It's just water seeking its own layer levels. Water will fill up everything and it gets to a certain point. And then from there, now you got the basis for it can circulate all these places. But once it gets to a point, now it keeps going up and keeps going up. And see, everything that's above that is yours. And see, that comes, well, everything that comes in is yours, but everything that's above that is yours, and it can be taken off and then continue to fill up. You take it off, ooh, it fills up. It does it on its own without you doing anything else. This is what's innovative in this system. And therefore, if you do this in a timely manner, and I'm talking about you could do this in a few days, it's every 28 days you have to actually, and you will circulate value through the system. But in the meantime, You get that 20, you get those three, and then you have your three with three. You have 12 people that are now connected to you while more people are joining. But when you have these 12 people, you've got more than enough to be taking out as it comes in. But there's some other things involved. So my point basically is that I will show you the platform first of all, and then because my invitation basically is to uh, join me in uh, I want to say exercising this platform, and it's called Co-op Inc. Let's see, here we go, and let me share. Here's a share screen. Oh, there it is, and oops, Adam, what did you do? All right, so some of you have already seen this, and like I said, I'm talking conceptual. I'm talking essentially. Here we go. I'm talking the principles at this point in time because this system operates on a different principle. It operates on the principles of cooperation, which are in full alignment with, I'll say, universal laws. It works on the principles not just of cooperation, but we're also talking replication. We're talking about a geometric growth. We're talking about a method that actually makes you and makes each indifferent to the prices, the fluctuations in the price of tokens and stuff, because all of the systems that we've worked under. I'm talking monetary systems. I'm talking about social systems. Here's today is Sunday, and we're talking. The football games are going on and everything else, and all of these systems. These are systems of thought, and they are systems of finiteness, of yeah, finiteness. There's infinite, and there's the finite. There is a closed system, and it's called a zero sum game. But essentially, what it is that the value is perceived to be here, and then there's a tug of war between each, where one is pitted against the other. So we're pitting ourselves against each other. We're taking up sides, and then we're going back and forth, as opposed to going down, taking the middle path, so to speak, where be a borrower or a lender, be neither. I think Shakespeare said something like, neither be a borrower or lender be. Ultimately, have your own. There is literally a way through this particular modality where people can get together, and because there's a single way of doing things system wise, people put a small amount, they divert a small amount of monies into crypto, and then they put into the system, which the system will circulate among the members every 28 days. And the thing is, you're doing that, you're inviting three people to do the same thing, and each person gets the same result. This system and this method, because all are equal in this method, we are talking about fighting for equality in our social system. This system, everyone is equal. So everyone puts the same input in, everyone has the same possible or potential results. The question mark is not the system now. The question mark is the individual. And the thing about it, the thing that it invites the individual to exercise, it literally is paying off. This is like it's paying you, the universe is paying you for being your best and for overcoming your familiar patterns. People have patterns right now that they say, well, this is the way I am. No, no, this is just simply the way you're being right now. If there's a better way that you want to be, and you're not taking active steps to get there and to be it, then you're never going to get there. This is common sense, and yet we're being encouraged to not be satisfied with health and to seek disease. That's our social system today. Those are the social norms. So here is a way to encourage people to choose to be their best, to bring their best out, their best behavior, their best vision. So, and I'll give you an example. If 10 years from now, let's say you're talking about your children, for example, or you're talking about yourself. If you're still talking about credit scores, for example, yes, you're right. Everybody can do what they want. But would it not be better to envision a time, if we're talking about a future time, wouldn't it be better to envision just simply having done something in such a way which involved no harm to anyone? In fact, a whole bunch of benefit to a whole bunch of people, and yet be in a way now in a position to have a sufficient supply of income, of inflow, because it's not even it's inflow. It's an ongoing uh, accumulation and accrual of value. Okay. So it's like having your wallet and you're looking at it now. And it's a good thing it's digital and good thing this stuff isn't physical because you wouldn't have room to receive to hold it all. Okay. So which would you prefer? And I'll enunciate that. Which option would you prefer? Right now, if you're not taking steps to first imagine, second, okay, someone is introducing this possibility to you, and third, saying you cannot simply put funds in and buy your way or either have your funds compound interest. Fun, the zero sum game situation basically means that when you're putting something in, someone else is sitting there before you, ready to take it, but also ready. You can sit in and be ready to put something in, but the system is not sending back to you in kind, and certainly not simply multiplying this after you have achieved such small gains. A small amount in, we're talking about anywhere from a minimum of $20 to a maximum of $328. That's a maximum. You can put in uh, uh, $20, for example, and simply do the steps that I just mentioned, and your accruals in the system will take you up to the 48, will take you up to the 328, and it'll keep going beyond. But each of those other steps, the 48 and then the additional 280, as it turns out, that would require the $328. Each one of those are provides you with participation in a stream that would be returning value to you, value assets that you can live on. And I'm talking about living quite well. And I'm also talking about being teachable, being demonstrable, being in a place where now you're in a position to not only take care of yourself and your progeny and everything else, but you can do things, you can green light various things, you can, there's some autonomy because you are actually become the uh, central authority for your own wealth. Okay, no outside central authorities to tell you what you can and cannot do. And I'm not saying that's an elimination of central authorities, but it's a different uh, it's a change in the dynamics. It's a change in the relationship. When you have enough to take care of certain things that you need to take care of in terms of your life. And you don't need someone else who's made promises. They promised and promised and promised, which you didn't want, and finally, okay, all right, accept their promise. Now you're on the dole for them keeping up with their promises, which it turns out is interesting how they start to dissipate over time and the follow through tends to disappear. So we're talking about changing all of those things, and through this system. what I will do, and all I'm doing right now is I'm extending an invitation for you to click uh, and join, accept my invitation, if you will, if this is of interest. And even if it's you want more questions or something like that, look me up on Facebook, send me a friend request, then direct message me, and we can talk. And we can talk by phone. We can do all that stuff, and because we can talk about how to do it, we can strategize. We This is where change begins, but it begins when we start something right now. So here's a call that I'm not going to take if I can see where. Uh, well, there it is. There. Excuse me. There we go. Not going to answer that just yet, but we are finishing up, and so what I will do is that's about him being impromptu as well. Let's talk. Let's Let me go back here to my screen because there we go. That's part of being spontaneous as well. And let me I'll change that. So I'm going to stop for now. I'm going to finish this for now. I'll be back here tomorrow and we're going to talk some more. I'm going to be back here later with another conversation on something else, but on vortexing and etc. Because the same principles are applied. We're talking vortex of economics. We talk about vortex in use of water, vortexing and motion and coordination, etc. are major parts of it. So I'm going to check out at present, and I thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your questions when you have them. And I also appreciate your the transformation of your life. As we transform, we can do it all together. That's kind of the point, is the point. And sometimes it's a bit more, let us say, smoother than others. But in the meantime, I'm going to check out, wishing you peace, prosperity, wealth, and great vibes. Until next time, I love you all.